everyone. Pat here. Welcome to the Completely Unnecessary Podcast 154.
With a smooth intro.
For Tuesday, April 2nd, 2019. That's Ian Ferguson.
That's me.
I'm Pat Conchi. We are your brethren for this pop cultural ride that is the CU Podcast. Talking about retro game stuff, modern gaming news, movie news. I'm annoyed again this week. This might be a theme coming up. This is like the quarter of annoying springtime, I think. But yeah, we're talking about a new Sega game, a new Zelda game in development, but a new Sega Mini. Hopefully better than the AtGames trash. We have more details on that.
Yep.
We have a review of the Analog SG from Mr. Ian Ferguson himself.
Mm-hmm.
Atari VCS structural improvements. That's fun.
Yeah.
That sounds like a bridge being built somewhere.
Can't wait to get to that.
We have
one.
a Scumbag Solve of the Week. We also have a Patreon topic and a Q&A. Ian, you went to WonderCon, though.
I did. WonderCon was fantastic.
Was it wonderful?
Year. It was.
The one time I tried to go 2 years ago, it wasn't wonderful. I couldn't find parking. I left.
Really?
Yeah. I wasn't, because it was like in the afternoon already. I was like, no, I'm not going knee deep into the, I don't want a 30-minute shuttle to get to my car. I'm done. I turned around and went home. That was not a good date. Sorry, go on.
I've never had a bad time at WonderCon. I've done it 2 years.
Well, I didn't either because I never got in.
Yeah. So yeah, Vani and her job, they had a booth up there. So I went up Friday with my friend Adam, and then I went up Sunday with Vani when she had off. I love WonderCon. It's small. It's manageable.
That's what Comic-Con used to be probably like 15 years ago.
Yeah, you can. I mean.
Or even maybe like 12 years ago. The first couple of Comic-Cons I went to weren't as nuts as they are now.
No, absolutely not. But yeah, it was manageable. It had always a heavier focus on comics. Almost no movie or TV presence on the floor. It's a really good place to go and try to hunt down a book. There's a lot of good artists. Artist Alley, I don't know if it's better than Comic-Con, probably not, but it's easier to navigate, and it does seem like there's a lot of really good popular artists who are there, and some that only do WonderCon. They don't do
the big one.
They don't do SDCC. So it's a really good show if you're like into getting art, original art, or comics.
Is there a good amount of Silver Age comic dealers more than Comic-Con, or is it the same amount? There's like 15 of them.
There's probably about this. It's probably about the same, but they just, it seems like it's a bigger presence because it's a smaller show.
Gotcha. Is there more trade paperbacks? Well, there was a lack of trade paperbacks last year. They got rid of that. A couple of the big vendors did not have.
There was a lot this year. Yeah, there was. I noticed
was disappointed.
A lot.
I like digging through those.
Yeah,
that's what I read for the year basically. I buy like 4 or 5 of them. That's what I read.
Torpedo was there. Torpedo's always at SDCC. That's the big one that's walled in by the big black cases.
Yeah, they would never have whatever Frank wants, but yeah. We want the Challengers of the Unknown Archive. No, we don't have that. No one wants that anymore.
I believe it's owned by one of the members of System of a Down.
Really?
Yep. And he's supposed to be very nice. That's really not even remotely close.
In my spirit.
But yeah, I picked up some X-Men Fight Vampire comics.
So, that's fun.
Yeah,
it's always good. Just mindless violence. X-Men.
So
fighting shit.
Vampires. But yeah, so that was WonderCon.
We keep forgetting there's another X-Men movie coming out this summer. They pushed it back twice.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm not watching it.
What's so weird about this, we can talk about this when we talk about the Scumbags of the Week. It has to do with these movies a little bit. But that's going to come out after Disney owns that movie now.
Yeah.
They own that movie, and they own the New Mutants, which has been pushed back a year. It's supposed to come out a year ago.
What? It was supposed to be out before that.
New Mutants was supposed to be out last year.
Oh yeah.
Like a year ago. Because they filmed it 2 years ago. So what does Disney do now with that New Mutants in particular? Do they shelve it? Do they put it on Hulu? Or what do they now, how do they tie up with this last X-Men movie? They've done 4 movies in 10 years with these X-Men movies, which have been, except for Apocalypse, have been good. And this one looks pretty good. What do they do with those? Or do they even say, fuck it, we're putting out as a one-off, but we realize that we're going to reboot X-Men in a couple of years, so just whatever. It's really a strange question, because they're not going to bring those people in. They're not. Right. They're going to do their own thing entirely. There's a new Wolverine, new Professor X, new Magneto, which they should. They just start clean.
Yeah.
But it's going to be hanging out there now.
That's weird.
Deadpool is its own thing. Deadpool is easy to incorporate, because Deadpool really didn't have a connection to the X-Men movies. You had a little cameo in X-Men in Deadpool 2, but that's it. Deadpool is easy to bring in. They're not going to touch that. Deadpool's going to come in. They're going to associate him easily. But with that X-Men movie, I don't know. That's going to be weird.
Yeah.
How much promotion they do for it. That's all the conversation. Let's not talk about that right now. We'll talk about it later. But it's an interesting thing because I don't think it's ever happened before, something like this. But, WonderCon was fun for you. You know what's a fun show?
SVU.
Law and Order SVU.
Yeah, boy.
And the reason we bring up SVU, procedural cop drama, it's been on for 20 years.
Jesus.
Late 90s. That was the first spin-off from the original Law and Order before the other 2 or 3 they had.
I love
Criminal Intent was right after that, and they had that
Super Cop Bobby
trial by jury one, and then they had a 4th one that no one ever watched.
Really?
With just the lawyers, like the blonde lawyer that was in SVU, like
Yeah.
it lasted like 1 year, and that's it. They got rid of it. But anyway, so SVU has been renewed for its 21st season. It's going to be the longest running primetime drama in history at 20. I guess that's longer than Gunsmoke was.
Yeah, Gunsmoke was like 19 years, I think.
Of course, on Raw they say it's the longest running episodic TV show. Like they won't say drama,
Right?
Even though it's really a drama, it's a soap opera. But it's still going strong. I mean, from the original cast, there's only Ice-T left and Mariska Hargitay. That's it. Everyone else is gone. Dan Flork's gone. He's been gone for years.
Chris Maloney.
Maloney's been gone for like 5 years from the show. Chris Maloney still does great work.
I love Chris Maloney.
Maloney was like barely contained rage on SVU, like all the time. In the original seasons, they had him with his like family would show up. They used to incorporate that stuff more, but then he went through a divorce because his job was killing him. And
I remember that.
I think he left the show. Why did he leave the show? Did he punch someone out or something? It
was something like that. I stopped watching after,
or he's just done finally after 15 years. Like, I'm done. I've seen too much, of course. And Hargitay is now the sergeant. So she's in charge of everyone. She's like the Dan Flork.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's the bald guy. The bald guy who was originally on Law and Order came to SVU because he got fired from Law and Order originally. They brought him back. Then he was the guy running it for like the first like 10, 12 years there. And then Munch is gone.
Oh, no Munch.
And then your man comes back every now and then. He just came back on from the first season.
Dean Winters?
Yeah, he comes back still. As like a weird thing. Like he comes back like once or twice a year to hang out and have sex with Mariska Hargitay. I don't know if they're still dating on the show. It's weird. They're a weird thing on the show. Like originally in the first, this was so weird about the show. You're following their lives because 20 years ago, Dean Winters was young and plucky and had a relationship with this character on the show. And then like 15 years later, he comes back in like older and gristled, but she's older and gristled from it's really a strange show.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to say about the show. It's entertaining, but it's probably the most depressing show you can possibly be entertained
It's horribly depressing.
Because obviously you're dealing with sex crimes and the show's important at bringing light to that.
Yeah.
It's one of the first shows to really do that, to deal with like rape victims and what they go through and victims of assault. So that was very important. That wasn't done. It's very obviously it's uncomfortable. But that said, you can still have some happy endings sometimes, and there's absolutely no happy endings to this show. There's just about none.
Yeah.
Even if someone's convicted of a crime, it's at the end of the show, and a lot of them don't even end with like in the courtrooms. They did originally more, I think.
They did, not anymore.
They were more like now it's like whatever. So what's interesting about Law and Order SVU is that I watch it to see what the weird twist is going to be.
Sure.
Because it's always good. It's never just like, well, this guy assaulted a woman and he gets. There's something fucked up that happens that makes it even worse for you as a viewer.
Yep.
So that when you stop watching it, you feel like you want to hang yourself. So I have a few examples, and I guess one recently I just saw, but these are the ones that stand out to me that are horrible. There was one about an older adult that got molested by his like piano teacher. Mm-hmm. He was like an 18-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid. And it goes through that because this guy also molested a bunch of other ones. So then at the end, of course, you find out that the 19-year-old is now molesting the kids that he is teaching. So it's like thanks. That's fucking. I mean, I'm not sure that obviously can happen, but that was a bad ending. But then there's other ones that are insane. Like that's one that's plausible. But then there's fucking insane ones, like a little girl getting like the gun of a person inside the police department and shooting like her alleged like molester and stuff like that. Like so then her life is ruined. Like she goes to jail too. And that's happened at least twice where there's been a shooting inside the police precinct. Have you seen any of those? I've seen at least 2 of them.
I think
happened.
I think I saw that one.
There's 2 of them. I've seen a couple where someone gets shot in the police precinct. Twice. Once it happens, you think, okay, that's really weird. It would not happen twice.
No.
Where someone in custody gets killed. Like, that's just weird. So you did see the one.
That one
it's insane.
Yeah.
How that could even happen.
Uh-huh.
Or someone bringing a gun in on their own in the precinct and killing someone.
Right.
I've seen that happen too. But then there's the one recently where it's like a neighborhood watch they watch out. It's like an anti-pervert, anti-pedophile thing, where they have a phone app to let them know based upon the database where all these people live, and they go after them. So they introduced early in the episode, I couldn't remember if he was a guy that appeared before, but Mariska Hargitay's character was like, oh yeah, we're friends, we kind of know each other. He was this like British karate instructor, okay? And then he installs a backdoor Trojan virus to all these pedophiles to download their pictures, so he knows exactly who they are and what they have through advertising about like, oh, you make sure your computer's very clean and whatever. So then, of course, you find out that was all front, that guy is actually the pedophile. And that was a guy that was going around raping little girls the whole episode. So it's just like, but I saw it coming, but they wait until the last like 3 minutes to tell you that.
Yeah.
To reveal it. And it's just like,
yeah, see, wow.
like they're getting more. It's been 20 years. It's not enough to just find like a rapist or someone who assaulted someone. They got to like throw in all these fucking twists at you.
Jesus Christ.
That like throw your head for a loop. I'm not even going to talk about the Gamergate episode that was fucking awful, where they actually had a first-person shooter part in the episode with a cop with a gun. Like, just like,
oh, we talked about that.
Did we bring that up? How bad it was?
Yeah, it was brought up.
It was fucking bad. But here's the SVU. It's entertaining. I guess it's been on for 20 years.
20 years.
I mean, what are you going to do, right? Anything else to SVU?
Nope. No, I think I stopped watching it before.
It's always on USA.
Really crazy. Yeah.
So you have to watch it.
Well, yeah, I used to watch it, but then I moved on to what's the word I'm looking for? Finer things like Forensic Files.
Finer things. Real justice.
Yes, real justice.
I'll give you this advice. I don't know why they don't replay it, but there was 6, 7 seasons of Burn Notice. That was an episodic procedural thing to extent about a spy in Miami. And while it's not as realistic as a police procedural, it's not as fucking depressing. You know, it's some people get shot and stuff, but it's like, oh, it's fun and light. It's almost like a Magnum PI meets MacGyver thing with the spy. That's why I loved it. It was on for like 6, 7 years. Jeffrey Donovan, great underrated actor, by the way. Check him out in the season 2 of the Fargo season 2. He plays a creepy fucking guy, like really good. Anyway, and then people want to ask us talk about John Oliver covered a week before WrestleMania. John Oliver covered the state of employee, independent contractors in WWE.
Independent contractors, and
we're going to talk about this for 2 reasons. One, we're going to talk about WrestleMania next week. Someone wants to talk about it. We're actually going to have a sponsored segment, so in all transparency, we're going to do that no matter what. And we're both wrestling fans. But the John Oliver segment is getting a lot of attention just because it's, you know, he has a huge show. It's national news. He dedicated 20 minutes to it. So we thought we'd discuss it. Ian, what was your take on about what he went through?
So it's nothing that I think that fans haven't heard before, but for the general public and perhaps newer fans,
fans of the last 10 years probably don't realize.
Right, exactly. It's necessary. They need to know what's going on in the background with their wrestlers and how they're taken care of. It's the same thing with how a lot of the problems with the NFL have come to light recently. John Oliver did a great job doing it. He presented it in as amusing as you could,
sure,
and in as amusing as you could way. But you know, it was also a very sad segment. He covered all the basics: the lack of unionization, the fact that wrestlers for the WWE aren't actual employees; they're called independent contractors. Mm-hmm. Even though there's nothing independent about it, they can't wrestle in other
they're exclusive.
Yeah, they're exclusive. They don't have health insurance. Those sorts of things. And over 23 minutes, he really covers just about everything you would want him to
everything
cover.
But not one thing I'll bring up that he left out. But it was interesting because like this is stuff we've known forever. The Wrestling with Shadows documentaries, almost 20 years old at this point. They came out like 99, I think.
But not everyone knows it.
Wrestlers, not until even the late 90s were wrestler contracts guaranteed. And you can thank Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and a few others going from WF to WCW for that. So for a long time, you weren't even guaranteed.
Right.
Like if you got hurt, they can just cut you. It's only and they can still do that, I think, but at least now there's like a standard minimums when it comes to this stuff for your guaranteed contract. That's why it's so weird when you hear stuff like this. It's like, how are you an independent contractor if you are working exclusively for a company? And that's the crux of it. How is that even legal?
Right.
And it probably wouldn't be, but I guess they never had a lawsuit come up, or it was never challenged enough. But the biggest turnoff to me about this is you're doing a job that's inherently physically dangerous, and your health insurance isn't covered for it. That to me is insane. I'm sure nowadays it's better. Like if you get if you blow out an ACL or something, I'm sure they probably help you with that, since that's so common now, or they have their own doctor. Maybe they get a better rate. But the fact that they don't cover health insurance, then again, if you're an independent contractor, you don't have to. That probably be if they covered it, that would be a red flag. Oh, these are salaried employees,
right,
and not independent contractors.
The ruse would follow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's bad. And I know people in the business. I know a writer. I know other people. And this was always the gambit of wrestlers that went to WWE, is that, yeah, you have a high-end payout potentially, but now, you're stuck in the system.
Right.
And you can be stuck. If you're not used, yeah, you'll get paid if you're low on the card, but you feel like trash. You can't wrestle anywhere else. They've gotten better with this the past few years. They've had one-off allowances on some of this stuff to go wrestle here or there. I think even Triple H showed up at an ICP event last year.
Really?
Yeah, just so they're trying to, and that's probably Triple H trying to make sure we have to build bridges to these companies. We can't cut ourselves off. This isn't the old territorial days of the 80s with Vince crushing everyone. But I think you have problems that remain, obviously. One of the main things that's problematic to me is not just the health insurance thing. And by the way, WWE responded saying, "Oh, we have a wellness policy in place," but it's like, yeah, but that's not health insurance, and that doesn't cover anything like having a retirement account. And not necessarily that you have to have all these things, but you got to make sure these wrestlers are being taken care of. And it's all about the wrestlers now that are 50 years old and 60 years old. And that's really what it is that those guys are out to just dry. Guys like Jake Roberts having to do crowdfunding for surgery is insane.
Right. Yeah, that's
how much money did he make for Vince McMahon? How much money did these wrestlers make for Vince? In the 80s or 90s, and these guys are lucky to reach 60 years old. King Kong Bundy passed away in early 60s, a couple weeks ago, and that's miraculous. He reached his early 60s.
Yeah,
it's miraculous if you reach your early 60s as a wrestler.
Well, they talk, which is fucked up, and they talk in John Oliver's segment. He pulls up an old Roddy Piper clip where he's talking about, going back to what you were saying, how wrestling provides a great entrance for you, but there's no exit policy. And he was talking about how he's not going to make it to 65, and he died at 61.
When you look up the list of wrestler deaths that were premature, and I say premature as anyone by the age of 60 for a lot of these guys, just because they put their bodies through so much, and then it's a substance abuse, unfortunately, because they have to pop so much painkillers, and not even talk about the steroids. The steroid deaths, that doesn't happen as much anymore because that's out of it. But up until the mid 2000s, I mean, people like Eddie Guerrero, that affected them. That affected them dying at Eddie Guerrero was 38, and he dies. His heart just fucking goes out. It's worked too hard.
Yeah.
And that happened to other wrestlers too. Other guys that showed up in WWE for Test, dead.
Jesus, I forgot about.
If you want to go through the list, I'm not even talking guys just from the. If you want to get really depressing, go back and watch WrestleMania 3 or 4 or 5,
and count how many people are still alive.
And you realize half of those wrestlers are dead.
Yep.
It's really bad. And then somehow Greg the Hammer Valentine still survives. He's the guy that's been around forever. It's really depressing. When you talk about Billy Jack Haynes and Hercules Hernandez and people like that. Ultimate Warrior passed away a few years ago, and Piper, and it's Mr. Perfect. That hit me hard. Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, he was so good, and he never got the.
No, he was supposed to fight Hogan. Yeah, all these guys are just gone, and it's well, they would have died by now. I was no, a lot of these guys would have been only 50s, early 60s, and a lot of these guys, Kurt Hennig, died early 40s. He was gone.
Yeah.
Was it early 40s? Early mid 40s. He was gone.
He was, I think he was.
He was 44.
Yeah. Wow. Jesus Christ.
And that was a drug overdose. And a lot of these times, these guys, it's painkillers combined with alcohol a lot of times, combined with steroid stuff. So your body just goes under. It can't handle the stress of all this stuff. It just can't. China, forget about China, just died a couple years ago. It's just a shame. So and to bring a light, it doesn't mean we don't like wrestling to bring focus on this. It's like you want this to improve somehow, and I think it has, but there's still ways to go. I think providing for the older wrestlers to me is the biggest crime, not doing that.
Yeah.
Not, and they do have if like Scott Hall, they got into like rehab and stuff, but that's only half it. Let's take care of their health care. These guys, it's
right?
Like Vince McMahon has so much money, and WWE has. You can if these guys say, hey, listen, can you help me out with this surgery? It's like, come on, you can't do that at least. Like
yeah, have a fund that the retired wrestlers can.
NFL's doing that now. Yeah, they had to get sued, but they're doing it. They came to an agreement. Say, okay, we'll do it. We'll provide a fund for you guys. You guys killed yourselves, and you can barely walk when you're 45 now. Rob Gronkowski just retired, 29 years old. He's out. He's like, I had enough.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
Yeah, 7, 8 years, 9 years, and that's it. And these wrestlers sometimes have to wrestle for 20, 25 years. They wrestle into their 50s or 60s.
Well, and like Roddy Piper said, you leave and then you go back, because what else are you supposed to do after you've broken
What else can
yourself?
a wrestler do?
Right.
What is it? What are they qualified to do besides be an entertainer? That's really it.
So I would recommend people watch the John Oliver segment if they haven't. Whether you like wrestling or not, this really isn't about the actual wrestling so much as it is employees or not employees.
I forgot about
the company being treated poorly.
The one thing John Oliver left out is that unless this changed, these guys have to pay their own way on the road. They pay for their own hotels and rental cars.
Oh, I remember you telling. Yeah, I
unless that changed.
Yeah,
I think they have their own corporate plane that they could travel all that. They don't pay that, but like if they're just driving, like that's, and especially hotels, they got to cover their own hotels. And that's, of course, you can deduct that, but that's not money coming back. That's lowering your taxable revenue. But my God, if you're on the road for 200 events a year, that's a lot of hotels. You got to share with other people. That's a lot of money out of your pocket.
Shitload of money.
Yeah, unless you and I've heard about 8 wrestlers sharing a room because of that, because it's cheaper. You know, but that's not comfortable though.
No.
Anyway, all right. So check it out. It's last week tonight with John Oliver.